You're currently the man behind the open letter. So
Yes.
everybody here, if you have not already subscribed, there's a lot of actionable insights that you can get from that. And Renier is doing his best to drive visibility and communication in the business and startup scene. So congratulations on that. If you have not yet subscribed, go over to the openletter.io and make sure you get part of that. I first met Renier a couple of years ago, quite a couple of years ago, as the driving force behind 4i, where he was leading not quite a small business, but really building what was quite a great software engineering firm. And it's been absolutely great to see his evolution throughout the years. So welcome, Renier.
Thanks, John. Excited to be here.
Excellent. And I'm also joined by Pranay. Pranay Pandey, he's one of my colleagues at Lula. He's a software engineering manager, and he's got a demonstrable history of driving efficient delivery in software engineering teams. And he's going to bring some of that to the conversation. He currently looks at automation, both from an infrastructure, ways of working, and developer efficiency perspective. So it's going to be great to hear some of that. Yeah. So today you've got a couple of decades of experience in the software engineering field, and hopefully some of that can be applicable to your business. Just a disclosure, and I'm sure Renier is going to say this, but some of the demos that are going to be done, it might not work. They're live demos. There's always the demagobs who have to pay homage to, and I don't think we have already done that. But I think the way that we react to that and the way that we approach that probably speaks to the kind of learning mindset that you need with these tools, that ability to react, make sure that it works, and always stay agile. I mean, these tools are constantly evolving, so there's obviously some challenges that brings. So maybe just from my side, from my personal perspective, we are going to focus on generative AI. So that's obviously the last generation of artificial intelligence, where LLMs have the ability to actually generate content. I think it's important to approach AI from a position where it is the worst where it will ever be currently. And I think if you approach it from that perspective and partner with the tools and with the intelligence that it brings, it can only empower your business, and hopefully it can enable you as a business owner to be more strategic, to have less of the mundane, automate your systems, and effectively just become more efficiently. Personally, I've used a Cursor, which is a software development environment, for the last year and a bit, and that enables myself as a software engineer to become extremely efficient. It's revolutionized the way that I approach things. It's if I look at the art of generating code, it's like having a constant pair development. So a senior software engineer being next to me, constantly checking the work that I'm doing, making sure, giving me suggestions, reviewing what I'm doing, ensuring that hopefully what I produce is of a higher quality, and that's it's just fantastic from that perspective. It's also enabled me to ideate, which is kind of important, also to check my biases and like that. But yeah, if I look at some of the demos that Renier is going to do, if we look at content and communication with customers, that's probably one of the key cornerstones of any SME. So yeah, I'm quickly going to hand over to Renier, and he's hopefully going to do us one or two demos, specifically, firstly,
awesome,
with regards to social media.
Great, thanks, John. Before I dive in, I actually just want to share a few thoughts on how I think about automation and when to look for it. And we're going to be chatting about generative AI and where that plays a role. But I think something that generative AI has brought is the ability for someone that's not that technical to actually be able to use generative AI like a ChatGPT to help you get integrations and automations done, even if it doesn't mean those automations require AI. So that's something that's been very useful for me. So I go on ChatGPT and I ask it, I want to automate this process using these tools. Can you help me? And it literally gives me a step-by-step guide of what to do. So that's a fantastic way to actually use generative AI for non-technical people. So even if you don't use any coding tools, it can help you a lot to automate some stuff in your business. So for us, we run an email newsletter that goes out daily. You can imagine it's quite chaos. We need to get a lot of different content from a lot of different places. We need to promote that content on social media. We need to get the workflow sorted. And at some point, I was thinking I need to hire a project manager or operations process person to just make sure all of this stuff works. And before we actually decided to hire, I said, cool, let's see what we can automate, right? And I think a great place to start when it comes to automation is wherever there's an asynchronous process involving different people for different steps and different sign-offs, automation is a fantastic tool to make that workflow work. Okay. So we don't try and replace people. We simply want to make workflows easier. So if you look for places to replace people, it's going to be a bit harder. And I think a good place to start actually is just saying, how do you make your operation run more efficiently? So that's what we did. We've got a lot of asynchronous processes, which I'll show some demos of now. And we started with 3 of them, which I'm going to show. And it helps us a lot in making sure we can actually get the work done we want to get done. So just quickly a tool stack. So what I like to use, this is the non-software developer tool stack. So if you're not a software developer, you're a small business owner and you want to get some automations done, you can have a look at these tools. Make.com, that's central to what I use. Now, similar tools is Zapier. You might have seen or used Zapier before. Zapier is a bit pricey. Make.com, definitely more affordable and a great tool to get automations done. If you are more technical, I can highly recommend a tool called N8N. N8N allows you to connect different APIs, allows you to do a lot of fancy dev stuff, and you can self-host it. There's an open source license, which means it's actually super cheap. But just a warning, you have to be a bit more technical to be able to get that done. Then second, we use a tool called Notion as a source of truth and planning and project management. So that keeps all our dates, all our customer contacts. It's kind of like a CRM go-to all for us. Tally, we use Tally to create very good looking forms. You can also use Google Forms, but Tally forms just look fantastic. And that's a great way to trigger an automation, which is something I'll show in a while. Then G Suite, so we use Google Docs, we use Gemini for meeting notes and all of that. Then OpenAI, both the API and ChatGPT is what I use. I'll show you a bit about that. Then email, just use email as reminders. So we don't want to always completely get humans out of the loop, but we want to be able to notify humans when the automations and or AI have done things. I use Xero for accounting and Paystack for our payments. Right. So let's get into the first one. The first one is a social media workflow. So our process, we write content daily that needs to go into the newsletter, but we also want to write previews that goes on social to say, hey, tomorrow in the newsletter, you'll be able to read about the following. Now, it's very similar to you might have a library of content, blog posts that you've created over time, company values, customer reviews, all of those things that you have centrally in one place. And you actually just want a way to go and pull from there and then take that data and put it into a social media post and then get it sent to you so you can go and post it if you think it's something you want to share today. So it just speeds up that whole process. So for us, it's actually written content. It's about a 400-word piece of content that's on a Google Doc that's stored somewhere that's going to be posted tomorrow that someone needs to pull out. So the pain is the person writing the content for us doesn't always finish at the same time or forgets to send it on once they've finished it, right? So this lives in a different process, a different flow. Then the person writing the social media post is busy and they forget to check in what happens. And then there's another person who actually needs to sign off on the social media before it gets posted. So we've got 3 different people working on 3 different tracks with 3 different things they're trying to do, asynchronously trying to work together. Okay, so what did we do? Every day we check on Notion for upcoming article by date. We say what's happening tomorrow. We get the Google Doc link of that article that's going to go out. we pull content from that Google Doc, we send it to our OpenAI assistant, and we email the post every day at the same time in the morning to the person who does social media and the person who signs it off. And then they can take that post if they want to, edit it, and then put it onto social media. So I'll show you a bit what that looks like. So let me get to the first one. So this is our daily post. So we've got this is make.com. So firstly, we connect all of these different apps using all of our different APIs that you get in the app. Make helps you to do it. It's very simple. You can also ask ChatGPT to help you do it. But we go into Notion and we basically look at a sheet that speaks about main articles that are coming up. So you can see we've got all our main articles for the next few weeks planned out. And then we've got a link here with a Google Doc that actually gets created automated, but that's a different automation. So it creates a Google Doc for us, puts it in a folder, and there's a link to that doc. So this one checks Notion, finds the Google Doc link. This is a little thing that just pulls out the document ID. And then if the document ID doesn't exist, it emails and says there is no document, good luck with your social post. But if it does exist, it actually goes into this flow where it uses Google Docs to pull the content from that document, and then it sends that content to our OpenAI assistant. So when you set up OpenAI, you can actually then create an assistant in OpenAI, which I'll show in a moment, and then it pulls out and it creates an email that looks something like this, which it sends in the morning. This was from a few days ago. So it actually created an X post, created an Instagram post, created a LinkedIn post, and then it said, if you want to create an image using an OpenAI image generation tool, here's some text you can put on it, which will be a great preview post. Now, we take this, we edit it slightly, we make sure it's actually in line, and then it's ready to go and post. So what happened here? We simplified the process of data flow of what's going to happen, and we put it in the hands of the person that's going to make the decision and actually post that out. So this is the entire flow, runs every day, helps us, save us a lot of time. There's also a link to the actual document that you can then go in and see if it actually matches what AI created. So a great little tool to just help speed up the creation of social media posts. So like I said, you can, instead of having a Notion database that pulls from articles like we do, you can have a Notion database or a Google Sheet that is populated with customer reviews. And then in there, you can say, pull a customer review and write it for me, but then also add some context to it as to why our company delivers good services in this area, and then email it to me every Wednesday. So every Wednesday, you'll get a randomly chosen customer review that gets written for you in a style that you can just use straight up in your social media post. So just on OpenAI's assistance, so what you do on openai.com, you register an account. So very simple. Add your credit card details. Basically, we loaded $5. We haven't run out of $5 in 2 months, so it's super cheap to actually use. But then you create what they call an assistant. And this assistant over here is the one that creates social media for us. So this is the prompt we used in the past. And you can actually ask ChatGPT to help you create this prompt. And then it creates this prompt for you. And then whenever you send something to this assistant, it actually executes this instruction with the content that you've sent it, and then it returns the instruction back. So you can then, so that's pretty much what it does, end to end. So you can create all kinds of assistants. They can use a file and look at the file and give you some feedback out of the file, mix context. There's quite a lot of things you can do. So this OpenAI module right here that allows you to engage an assistant is actually one of the coolest things that you need to integrate into your workflows, because it allows you to use the power of generative AI within different sets of automations. So that's the one for social media.
Renier, probably one of the most important parts that you're demonstrating now is, as you mentioned, having OpenAI as part of any workflow in an organization and you talked about being asynchronous. Modern businesses where not everyone is sitting in the same office, where you need logistical, choreography. That really is quite a nice optimization that you're showing there, where you're actually delivering content with people in the process, signing off, and actually delivering that to a valuable kind of endpoint, which is your social media endpoint. So yeah, great.
Yeah, and it's a nice combo of automating workflow as well as using generative AI to even improve it even more. So and it's super powerful. Saved us a lot of time thus far. Great. So then I can go on to another one, which I think is a pain for a lot of people as well. When you deal with a lot of clients, you often engage in the process of having to get feedback from clients to make sure your projects don't run late, right? So you're working with 5 or 6 different clients. All of them have different deadlines. All of them have different expectations. All of them have things that need to get done. And if you don't keep your hand on the pulse of reminding them, hey, remember to send me something, you're going to run into a situation where ultimately it's going to cost you money because you didn't get the stuff in time, right? So something that we had to do is we've got clients that run ads with us in the newsletter, so we need to make sure that the content is ready in time for us to publish. We've got a deadline every morning at 6, so by yesterday that needs to be signed off in order to go into the newsletter tomorrow. So the pain is the client forgets, we forgets, and they need to be happy with whatever we put in the newsletter before we send it out. So this one is every day we check Notion for what's coming up 7 days from now. We get the client contact details from Notion. We get the Google Doc where they put their content in. We edit that Google Doc to add a segment for the new advertisement, and then we email them a reminder with all the links that they can do that. So very simple reminder automation. So over here, let me find that one. Over here, so we search for the objects, we get the database item, we insert the paragraph, and we email them. So very simple automation, just 5 steps. Very simple to build as an OpenAI, but you can see like these are all the ads that are coming up. So we actually pull data from Notion, and then that goes through this workflow, and ultimately the client gets this kind of email that says, hey, here's a reminder for your ads coming up. They can click there and they can just put the content in there. But what's also great is because it was an automated reminder, they can now just reply to that and say, hey, I don't have time for this. And there's a much better workflow between us and the client to actually get the stuff done. So any reminders you need to send, any details you need to get from a client, this is a very simple automation that can help you get that done. Also, maybe just at this point, a very important comment when it comes to automations and using these kind of AI tools. Like the project management tool, the central source of truth is probably one of the most important things in here, because if we don't keep the dates and the customer info and all of that updated on Notion, there's no way these things can run. So, and that's almost like a base level thing for any automation or AI you want to build. Like the source of your data needs to be sound, and you need to make sure that's maintained and up to date. So that's kind of like a reminder one, which is pretty cool. And then the third one, which we use, is want to create summaries for some of the articles we source and curate and put in our newsletter, right? So we've got a section on the newsletter which we call shorts. So we curate interesting things we believe our readers would find interesting from across the internet. So 4 or 5 different people spend time during the day to read news and read tech news and tech updates, and then we find links of interesting articles. And then in the past we used to post that in a WhatsApp group, and that just got lost. Okay, so what we did is we actually created a form using Tally. Then in there you put the HTML of the website that the article is from. We use a tool called Gina.ai. You can check that out, Gina.ai. If you take any URL, if you take the URL r.gina.ai / and then the URL, it actually scrapes that website for you and gives you the markdown version of all the content on that website. So you can use that tool to scrape the website, get all the content. I then send it to our OpenAI assistant and writes a little short summary for me, and then they store it in Notion in our content workflow. So once again, actually a very simple workflow. We call it Tally Make Shorts. So basically it runs, it gets the form, it watches for a form response. As soon as we fill the form in, actually gets the HTML, parses it a little bit, sends it to OpenAI. OpenAI creates a database in Notion, the database item gets created and it gets updated. And then basically what it happens is, this was for yesterday, so we found a cool link for We Think Code, partners with Western Cape TVET. So Jason filled that in, he just made a note to say, love to see it. Here's a little summary, which we can use just like that in the newsletter. But here's actually all the original content from the article, and then there's the link to the actual article. So it, once again, speeds up the workflow, makes it simple, actually writes the summary for us. So we read this article, we make sure what we're saying here in the summary is aligned with the style and content and tone that we want to do. Even though we've prompted AI to do it, we still edit it. But this just simplifies the curation process for us substantially. Now, you can even go as far as to say, you build a form and you just drop links in there and get OpenAI to create an entire email newsletter for you and automatically send the thing. Like that's the evolution of this is actually that it would get to a point that you can actually do that entire process automated. So that's some of the workflow stuff, John, that we've built. We've got some
I,
payment stuff we can show as well, but maybe let's pause there. We can chat a bit about that.
Absolutely. So, Renier, I'm very excited about some of the zero demos that you're going to do, or zero demo that you want to do. Specifically, I mean, if we look at that, any small business, the accounting package of choice should be zero. It's a really great feature set that they have. But first, want to ask you, Renier, I mean, working with all these tools, obviously there was a learning curve involved. How did you find that learning curve?
So I think initially it was very daunting until I realized that I can actually ask OpenAI to help me with it, and then it became much easier. So whenever you get an error, I mean, one of the biggest hacks for using OpenAI to help you get stuff done is actually take a screenshot of the error or the screen and just post it in ChatGPT. So actually it works for Excel and Google Sheets as well. Like you go, I need a formula to do
Yeah,
XYZ. You just screenshot your entire screen and it
no,
actually is
definitely.
perfectly fine. So when I set it up, I mean, it's very iterative. You get a lot of errors, stuff doesn't work the way you want. You have to tweak, edit. So it's not as though you set the stuff up once and it works. You're gonna have to iterate it. But I found being able to ask ChatGPT, what does this error do, and it helping you debug it to a point where it works is really useful.
Yeah,
So without it, I think it would be really tough for someone that's not technical to get it, because sometimes you have to connect to an API. So you have to look at an API documentation.
yeah,
And that's luckily because Make natively integrates into most tools you would use. That's not something you would probably have to do. I mean, none of these
it's
that I've shown does that. But even in those cases, you can give the API documentation to ChatGPT, tell it what you want to do, and it will actually step by step explain how you can get that done.
yeah. Yeah, if we look at make.com, I mean, it looks like there's a form of connector that's being used. Have you reached any kind of limitation that you think is prohibitive?
Yeah, so Make.com, what's actually quite nice about it is you can register account right now, and I think you get 1,000 or 2,000 actions for free before you have to start paying. So you can one of these ones that I've showed you now, you can probably build that for your business without having to pay, like because it will be simple enough. As soon as you start using more of it, you get onto a paid package. Currently, we do quite a lot of automations. I think we get 20,000 a month actions. So each automation uses, I don't know, 5 to 15, depending on how complex it is, actions. But we get 20,000 a month, I think, for 200 Rand a month, which is very reasonable considering the amount of value that it actually adds to us. In terms of limitations, sometimes I do find an app where something doesn't work exactly like I want or need it to work. And then either it's something that you cannot do, or we also have a Zapier account. Sometimes I use Zapier, but Zapier is substantially more expensive. The entry level package there is 600 Rand a month, and you get quite a few less automations. So,
Okay.
and then also at the moment actually playing with N8N to see if I can self-host some of the stuff and move it over there. But I found that learning curve to be quite steep. That one is quite technical.
No, absolutely. But the cost that you are talking about, I mean, that is minimal for an organization. That is really,
No, it's 200 Rand a
it's
month. Yeah.
if you look at the opportunity cost not to deep dive into this, it's far beyond that. So it's really important to utilize this. I would like to bring Pranay into the conversation. So maybe just a precursor at Lula, we use Google Workspace. So Gemini is our AI assistant of choice. Maybe Pranay, you can talk about how you utilize it in your day-to-day kind of ways of working.
Yeah, sure. So Gemini has been a really strong addition to my daily life, if I can put it that way. For all intensive purposes, it's become an assistant, and a pretty good assistant at that, in fact. So the cool thing about Gemini is it's well integrated into the Google Workspace. So that means it has access to Google Docs, Google Sheets, your Gmail. Across these tools, you can actually use Gemini to make your life a little bit more efficient. So the way I've been using Gemini is literally I open up the chat, I ask Gemini, okay, what does my day look like today? And it will tell me exactly, it will summarize for me what my calendar looks like. I can ask it, can you summarize the emails that I had for the day, highlight any important action points that there may be from there. And it does a pretty good job of it. So, you know, the thing with AI though is I'm not yet at the point where I fully trust the output of AI, so I do a little bit of validation. But so far, it's done really well. What you can actually do from there then is you can ask it to create me a meeting with a specific person so we can chat about this, or you can ask it, create me some tasks about this. Some cool things that I've also used it for is brainstorming. It is absolutely amazing to brainstorm with. It's like you have another person there with you. So if we're exploring a new technology or considering some changes in certain processes or something, I would basically run that through Gemini. Gemini then, of course, it searches the web for what it knows, and it's also got its internal knowledge based on the topic that I may be asking about. It gives that to me. It's been very good as well if I want to do tool comparisons. So I'd ask it to compare two tools for me, tell me what's the pros and cons of each of them, and it actually spits this out really well. So yeah, for me in my daily flow, Gemini has been really good in terms of summarizing, creating documentation, helping me analyze spreadsheets as well. So that's something I really found useful is I can just paste the link to a sheet in Gemini of someone that shared with me, and I can ask Gemini, okay, analyze this for me, summarize it for me, what's going on here, and yeah, it gives that to you within seconds also. So that's the really good part for me is the speed at which
Yeah.
it responds to you.
I mean, Pranay, one of the nice endeavors that we did in the last couple of days was just to, and let me just put that as a kind of backstory. The ability to scrape and generate or scrape content and retrieve content is really improved in the last year. Pranay and I did an endeavor where we crafted a fictitious business. We created a couple of PDF statements, let's say 6 months worth, and we asked Gemini to just analyze the data, categorize the transactions, and give us what you would receive from a fully paid BFM. So categorize the transactions, look at cash flow management, just analyze the business. And it did an exceptional job with that. So even from a business perspective, even from a personal perspective, that is really something that is something to look into. Pranay, I mean, those are the positives. Any concerns that you have with regards to your utilization or some of the tools that we're using?
So I think the very important one is to be cautious of the security of your data. So something that I've intentionally do is try to be careful about what data that I'm actually sharing with AI. And I think this goes for any tools, but I think it's really important to read the privacy policies behind these tools just to understand what is happening with your data. You know, one of the risks of this is that if you were to give some of these LLMs data, it's sometimes really difficult or nearly impossible to have that removed from there after the models have been trained on that data. So I think it's what I try to do as well is just to ensure that I'm not really sharing sensitive information, just being aware of what the tools that I am using. You know, there's a lot of tools out there. A lot of them are advertised really well, so you really want to get your hands on them and try them, but you need to be careful with what you're sharing with them. So I think it's just about being cautious about what's happening with your data. The other thing that with the AI tools that I've tend to take notice of is to just be careful of hallucinations. So for those that don't know what the hallucinations are, it's basically the AI believes it's telling you the truth, but it's not necessarily telling you the truth. It's making an assumption, or it was poorly fed data and it's giving you incorrect answers on that. So that's something that you just need to validate against. And I think AI is a continuous learning exercise, if I can look at it that way. I mean, if you want to prevent things like that, you start looking into, okay, what data am I feeding it? How well structured are my prompts, and so on. So I think some of the dangers is just being careful to validate the information that AI is bringing back to you, and just being cautious with the data that you're sharing.
I think as well, Renier mentioned a very key item. If you are crafting a prompt, if you're actually in that process, asking it about what information it needs and how to craft the prompt is also something that you should look at. It's definitely something that the input data is still is still valuable and still matters. Maybe Renier, we've come to that point in the conversation where we're going
gonna
to
build.
tweak and do a bit of a live build.
Let me show the Zero one just quickly, because I think that is that's also one that could be interesting to people, John, if that's all right. I'll run through it quickly.
Absolutely.
So I think something that a lot of people have faced is if you sell things online, you know, one of the things we do is we've got a founder community called the Founder Collab, and in there people pay a monthly subscription to be part of a community where we do all kinds of master classes. There's lots of networking. We help people build. But in there's an automated payment that goes through Paystack every month. And then ever so often I get an email from someone to go, hey, can I please get an invoice for that? Now, if you sell on Takealot Marketplace, if there's, you know, if you sell on e-commerce, like this is an unusual request, you often get an email, can I get an invoice? Now, if you use something like Zero, that's easy to do. You can log in and create an invoice. The problem is, once again, it's asynchronous. Like when they ask me for my invoices, not when I'm on Zero, and then it actually takes quite a lot of time to go in and build it. So manual process, it creates a bad customer experience, not being able to give them an invoice immediately, and I just forget about it. I don't get to it. So one thing I built here is when Paystack gets a payment, the API, there's a webhook that the API sends to, and that listens for a new payment that gets made. Once it comes in, I use that customer's email address to check whether or not I've created them as a customer on Zero or not. If I've not created them, I create that customer, I create the invoice, I get the link to the PDF, I create a custom HTML, and I email the invoice to them, and I mark it as paid. If they are a customer, I just create an invoice to that customer. So this automation does a bunch of other things as well, but you can ignore that. Here's the webhook over here. It checks for the payment. Here's a filter for when the payment comes in. Searches for my contacts on Zero, checks the email address. This is the path of it's a new customer, so it creates the customer, creates the invoice, updates the invoice, sets it to paid, gets the invoice URL for the PDF, and then creates custom HTML, not a email. Now the cool thing is what you can do is in ChatGPT, you can say, hey, I want to send an HTML email to my customers. Here's my color branding, here's my font, here's my style, and it actually and here's what I want to say. And it actually creates all this HTML for you. You actually don't even have to create HTML. It creates it for you. That's what I did. I put it in here. And then every time someone makes a payment now, this thing automatically runs. And then they get an email like this. It says, payment received for Founder Collab. Thank you for your payment. Download your invoice. If you have any queries about the invoice, let me know. And they can reply to the email. So a nicely styled email. Can even make it nicer using ChatGPT. But they can click on this download invoice button and actually opens the Zero invoice, which they can then download and use. So now I never have to send invoices to people again. It happens automatically, and I don't have to worry about it. So Zero is quite flexible.
Just a question on that. I mean, that's a beautiful example of how to automate a process. Can I ask you, Renier, how long did you from Zero to Hero? How long did it take you to craft that?
A couple of hours. I think the initial one probably took an hour to build. And then, you know, as new payments came in, there was some stuff that broke and we iterated. And so end to end, probably about 3 hours work over a period of 2 weeks.
That is fantastic. Because if you look at that, the time spent has been paid back in multiples. So that's excellent.
Hundreds of times.
Fantastic.
Just logging in and creating it is a major pain. So that saved a lot of time. Right. So are we gonna get into building?
Let's do it.
Let's go. Okay, cool. So something that I think a lot of businesses face, I also face it, is you have a call with a customer and you discuss a proposal for something you want to do. And in that call or post that call, you then as a supplier have to go put together a proposal with all the terms that were discussed in the call and agreed upon. And then that needs to be sent off to the client. And what I found is like post that call, I've got another meeting, 2-3 days go by, I kind of forget about this. And I've actually not only given the customer a bad customer experience, I've now, missed out on opportunity to make a sale, get money coming through the door. So this is a concept idea of how to create a proposal using Google templates and all of this automation. So quickly going to chat through it and then we're going to start building. So firstly, we're going to use Tally to do a trigger. and tally is the forms. I'll show you what that looks like now. Then we're going to get the transcript from Gemini Notes. So Gemini Notes, when you record in Gemini on Google Meets, it actually creates Google Docs notes for you. Then we're going to use that notes to send it to our OpenAI assistant and generate output for us that can go into our document. We're going to parse that feedback. We're going to create we're going to use a template that we've set up previously in Google Docs to populate the content that we get from OpenAI. We're going to make a PDF of that. We're going to write an email using OpenAI's assistant and automatically send that email with a proposal attached to the customer. Now, tally is the trigger here because I like a bit of human intervention, but you can actually end-to-end automate this entire process. When new meeting notes lands in a specific folder, then just start running. I'm not too comfortable with that because I like to still be in control of my machines for now. So that's not what I'm gonna do. So we're gonna start here. So the first trigger we're gonna do here, this is in make.com. We're gonna set up tally to say we want to watch when someone fills in a new form. Right, so tally is gonna look. I hope it's actually checking the right one here. We'll see now. Okay, tally is actually going to check when we set up when a new form is submitted. So just to show you what tally looks like, tally is a form creator. It builds beautiful forms. It's free to use as well. So this is just the form I created. So create proposal. I'm only going to use it internally. It doesn't have to look great, but it's just a way for me to input an ID of a Google Doc where there's a transcript, right? That then gets created and it gets passed on. So firstly, that's my trigger. That's when I say, I've got a meeting notes here that I actually want to automate or want to make a proposal of. So please use that. So the next thing is I'm actually going to do a get content from document on Google Docs. So my Google Docs is already connected. And now I say, look, I want you to go find me all the content from a document. And actually what we're going to do, I'm just going to save it quickly and then run it once. Now it's going to give me issues. Because what I want to do is I want to give... I want to get the fields that the tally form will be sending. So I'm getting the tally form to listen, and I will actually, well, I can put anything in it. Oh, sorry, wrong form. So I put my tally form and I do a submission in there. And if it's connected up, it will actually find that one, which might be, I might have sent the wrong one. There we go. So now it gets it and it gives me an error. So this is normal. This happens quite regularly. So we'll just create a new connection. We'll say the form we want to pull from is this form. Okay, create a proposal. And now I save it. And now it should be listening for new responses. Let's try that again. Okay, so it's very important when you connect things in AI to be able to map the different things to each other. So here you can see it actually got a successful response, and it says this is the output and fields ID of document equals test. So now I can go ahead and I can go Google Docs, get content of a document, and I can tell Google Docs the document ID is this actual document ID that I get from there. So it's linking the document ID that I put in Tally into Google Docs, and it gets the document for me. Okay, so next up, now I have this transcript. I just created a transcript beforehand. You can see it's me and John having a conversation about John's code company. He wants to run an ad in the open letter. So this is a transcript that comes from whatever meeting note thing you create. I obviously just used AI to create it. John is not advertising in the newsletter yet. But if we were to have a discussion like that, this is something what it could look like. Okay, so it actually goes into this document, it pulls that content from there, and it sends it to OpenAI. Okay, so the next step is we want OpenAI to message an assistant. Okay, so before we go on and pick an assistant, I created an assistant beforehand, but you would go to openai.com and you would go to assistants and create a new assistant. I created an assistant called proposal writer and said, you are a proposal writer, you'll be given a proposal template and a transcript of a conversation between two parties agreeing on terms. Your task is to do X, Y, Z and give the output in that format. And then I shouted at it because it broke earlier to say, please don't do anything else than what I'm asking you to do. All right, so that assistant has been created, it's set up, so I can go in here and say, the proposal writer which I've created, send them a message, and what you need to send them is the content of the document. So you need to go and find it in here. It's the content of the document that comes from there. All right. So at this point, I can actually test the whole thing. I can say, cool, let's run it. And I will get the transcript I get the ID from the transcript over here, the Google Doc ID, which you can find in the URL of the Google Doc that you're doing. It's in there. So I paste that in there. There it started to run. It pulled the document. Now it's chatting to the assistant over here, and it's going to show me the feedback that it gets. Let's hope it works. So I can actually now check my inputs and my outputs. So this is the input, was the document ID that was sent. Now I can see body, content. Here's all the whole document came back that way. Let's see what it did. So content, text, value. Yeah, here we go. Client name, John's company, date, 5th of August, discussion pertains to advertising opportunity. So it actually went into that document and it pulled all of that stuff from the transcript out into my document. Just give me a second. Okay, cool. So next up, what I need to do is I need to parse this JSON. So it gives me, JSON is, technical people like John can tell you what it stands for, but it's a way to send data from different types of coding interfaces. And I'm getting that in that format. But what I need to do is I need to parse that JSON into variables. So I'm getting a JSON string. I'm saying there's the result that's coming in that way. And it's actually going to break it up into the different parts that need to go into my document. So next up, I've got all my info I need. I can now start to create a document. So I go and use this template. It's called, or this function is called create a document from a template. And what I did previously is I actually created this document template, which has all of these areas which can be filled in by the AI using the variables that I've now collected from OpenAI. So I've got an overview, goals, specification, publish dates, and fees. You can obviously style and design this thing in your company branding. You can do it whatever way you want. But what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to map these variables that I'm now getting from OpenAI to this one. So firstly, the document ID, which one are we going to use? Which template? We're using project proposal, which I've created. I just showed it to you. Document title. And now it actually asks for all the fields that's in the document. So it says client name. Now I can go back and say, well, OpenAI actually sent me all of these things, right? And it was parsed. Where is it? Okay, I haven't run it yet. So we're going to run it yet first. And then see how it does, because it needs to learn the data that's going to come through the system. So once again, Tally is waiting for me to send it a form. I'll be sending that document ID again, which is the transcript, just to trigger the automation. And now it's running to OpenAI. It's going to get the JSON out, and the JSON is going to get parsed. And then once that happens, I'll be able to map that to the different fields in Google Docs for me. So that I can create a document. So over here, we've got the input is the JSON, but check how beautifully it actually did it for me. Client name, date, overview, goals, specs, publish date, fees and terms. So next up, I'm going to be going Google Docs, create a document from a template, and then I can say, what is the template I would like to use? Project proposal. Title for now, I'm just going to call this John's proposal. What you would probably want to do is do it dynamically. So find a variable somewhere that you can name it, maybe the date of the meeting, which is something you can pull in here. But I now have the option to map all of these things. So John's Code Company, I can map the date, I can map the overview, I can map the goals, I can map the specs, I can map the publish dates, and then I can map the fees and terms. Okay, so awesome. Everything we've discussed in the meeting and agreed on, according to the transcript, is now mapped automatically to different fields that goes into the proposal. So I've got a folder here, proposals. It's going to save it in there for me. And now actually what I like to do is every step I actually run the automation. You might have noticed that, but just to see how it goes. Okay, great. So now, once again, Tally is waiting for me to send that form. I'm just going to refresh here, send it this form, and let's see how it goes. Cool. So it pulls from the transcript, sends it to OpenAI, gets the JSON back, parses the JSON, populates the document. And what we want to see is I've got a proposal folder here. That's the folder it's supposed to land. So if it's successful, the proposal will land in there. And all of these fields. It would use this template, but it will actually fill in all of these fields with that which is happening. Okay, so far so good. Let's see how it goes. Creating the proposal, and that proposal. Okay, so it says it worked. Let's see. Okay, so here's the proposal for John. If I open that up, there we go. Look at that. John's Code Company, 5 August, overview, proposal outlines the agreement between John and the open letter. All the stuff that OpenAI created for me, all the fees, that works. Okay, great. So now I want to go, great. This is awesome. I now actually want to send an email to John automatically to say, hey, John, in accordance with our discussion, let's, here's the proposal. You can just approve it by replying yes to the email or whatever the case may be. You can add a signature to the template, but that would be the next step. So from here, I go, let's download a document, because I now want to create a PDF from that. So the document ID, I'm just going to map that because I know what this document ID is. I can pull it from the previous one when the document was created. And then it says, what format do you want it in? So I would like it in a PDF, please. And then I now need to create an email, right? Because I'm not going to type this email. So I created another assistant in OpenAI, which I call email writer, specifically for this email. It tells it you're going to get a proposal, and you need to write a nice email. So what are we going to send here? Let me just check what we need to send. Okay, so we're actually sending we can send the transcript. There's a lot of different things you can do. I'm actually going to go back to the original transcript because that's what I briefed it on. So where's the content of, okay, so content of the document. I don't want to send any images, that's fine. And just to go to the assistant, so what did I tell this one? So I told this one, you are the kindest and most professional email writer in the world. I will give you a transcript of a video call I had with a client. You need to take the transcript, write an email person call with, keep it short and concise, and the references, end it with best regards, and you format in HTML, no subject line, just the content. So that's what I gave it. And then what I want to do after that is I actually want to send an email. And in the email, I'll just send it to myself. But you can dynamically add email addresses in here, which you may have pulled in the tally form, the client's email. Like there's a lot of things you can do. Okay, and then content, I want this to be the output, the result from that OpenAI thing. So let's see how we go. We need to go to tally, and we need to give it a form. Let's play this. Okay, so now it's waiting. I can actually switch it on now. So whenever someone gets, whenever this form gets submitted, it will actually execute that automatically. So if we go in here, okay, now we started the whole process. Let's see how we go. So the ultimate end goal is I want an email in my inbox with a PDF attached with all the right details based on a conversation I had on Gemini, on Google Meets using Gemini Notes. So here we go. Document is still going. It's looking good so far. If this works end to end without anything major breaking, it would have been a miracle.
I just actually want to put this in context. You have spent 8 to 10 minutes and you have automated an assessment for meetings. And I mean, that is the power that you are demonstrating. And I mean, if we look at a small business, there's so many applications for this. I mean, rudimentary. Fantastic! Just look at that.
Okay.
I mean,
there's one thing here. I forgot to add the PDF, but yeah, sorry.
No, that's not. Yeah, true. But that's just an
But yes,
artifact.
if I go to attachments, I go cool, add that Google Doc. So we can actually run it. I'll run it again while you speak, John.
No, fantastic. I mean, if we look at that, these applications, whether you are a construction business owner and you are having iterative conversations with your clients on the site, I mean, recording that conversation, just keeping everyone aligned. There's so many applications for this beyond just the rudimentary office work. That's really exciting. So yeah,
Well,
Renier, thanks a lot for this demonstration.
Something that takes a bit longer to do, John, but you can actually hook up something that can receive voice notes, right? So you can have an app or some way for yourself to actually record a voice note. So let's say I'm a construction worker, I'm on site, I need to do a quote for a client. I can record a voice note and actually explain what the work needed to be done is and what I've seen. It changes that into a transcript and does this exact same process to actually send the client on site a written
Exactly.
report together with a quote for the work to be done. And you can
No,
automate that
absolutely.
entire thing.
And even if you take that further, I mean, you're effectively storing all those transcripts in your Google Drive. And
Yeah.
to Pranay's example, now you can go at the start of every day and just make sure on the various sites that I'm working, etc. What are the actions that need to be done? What's you can even ask it, what's the resources do I require cement or sand at a certain place? Is there a truck that needs to go somewhere? So there's
Yeah.
a lot of implementations that follow from this.
So just to show end to end it worked. So here we go. There's the email and the proposal is actually attached. So I know it's a very simple proposal, but you can prompt AI differently. You can add more stuff. You can add signed for. I think the concept is explained. So that's the end to end building. If you want to go build yourself, that's how you do it.
Oh, fantastic. Renier, thanks a lot for your time. Really appreciate that. Pranay, fantastic as always. Maybe can I just a couple of minutes? I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions with
Yeah,
a
sure.
couple of different other tools. I know people have been asking in the message chat as well. Yeah, any questions that anybody has, if I look at that. Lee, just a pleasure. Great to see you on site as well. Hex, yes, there's a couple of business plans out here. Viva, if we look at the recording will be shared afterwards. We share all our recordings on YouTube, so you can definitely just navigate there. Herman had a question with regards to the experience of NAN versus Meg. Renier, you mentioned the technical versus the soft skilled approach. I think that's probably the key concerns. Any other insights you have there?
Yeah, so I think what's really cool, once you get Make up and up and you know how to work it, you can self-host it. And for context, what that means is you literally go to DigitalOcean and you pay $6 a month for a droplet. And don't be scared. Like I'm not a developer, and I got it set up and running on my own URL within 20 minutes. And then post that, you can actually do some really cool stuff with N8N. M8N also allows like very cool direct integrations into different LLMs and generative AI tools, which then actually ends up building the automations for you automatically, and then you can just tweak from there, which is really cool. I think also once you pick a tool and you start building on it, it's really hard to switch. I tried to switch from Make to N8N, and I'm just like, this is just a mission. So I think pick a tool, learn that tool, and then be confident that you're happy to stay there for a while, because moving all of them is going to be a mission.
Yeah, that does make sense. Maybe you're just looking at any other questions. So yeah, Heinrich, I think the idea behind these demos were that they are, for SMEs, that they're not too technical. So I think even if we look at the connectors that Renier set up, I mean, it's really workable. There's also a lot of tutorials available online for Make specifically, and there's a lot of connectors. There is a conversation about in the chats about whether Google or Microsoft is better, but there's a lot of integration available. A lot of other different email providers and cloud document providers as well that are also integrated, and a lot of automation tools as well. I think it's endless, so you don't necessarily need to stick to a very specific tool set. I think it is the power is in its flexibility. Oh, thanks, Indra. Great seeing you on site as well. Appreciate that. There's a lot of tools beyond Cursor. Cursor is just one of the options. I'm sure you're well aware of them, but it's whatever makes you feel comfortable. I think specifically Cursor is a great option for me because I'm used to the Visual Studio Code. So yeah, that's just what I've seen
So
from my
John, if I
personal
can,
perspective.
if I can add a comment to that, I think it's so important for everybody to actually immerse and try and build something. Because even if you build something that you might not end up using, just being able to see what these things do is really useful to open your mind to other ideas and how it's going to change business as we know it. So even if you feel like you're in a deep side, you don't know what to do, just automate something in your own life. Like build something that sends you a daily inspirational quote via email, like in the morning at 6, and you get that every morning, and try and change that prompt over time and see. I mean, that's a 3-step process, should take 5 to 10 minutes, but it's very, very cool to see that it actually works and how it works.
Yeah, no, that's really important. Yeah, thank you very much. I think we can close the conversation here. Thanks a lot. I think this has been quite eye-opening, and hopefully it's going to ignite some fire within a lot of the participants. So thanks a lot.